Hey guys, Brad Browning here, and I've got a question for you. What if your ex actually wants you back right now, but just doesn't know how to say it? Now that might sound far-fetched, especially if they've been distant, cold, or even a little harsh lately, but I've helped thousands win back their exes through my one-on-one coaching. And here's what most people don't realize. When an ex secretly wants you back, it's rarely obvious. They typically don't text you to say, I miss you. They don't tell mutual friends. They don't just show up at your door with flowers and an apology. It's almost always way more subtle than that. But if you do know what to look for, there are some clear, simple signs that your ex is still emotionally hooked and possibly on the verge of coming back to you. All right, let's dive in with sign number 1. They suddenly show you respect. Now, something almost all people do, even if they don't want to admit it, is treat others differently depending on what they hope to get from the other person. So basically, if all your ex wants from you is sex or occasional emotional validation, then they're not going to be very careful or empathetic towards you. They probably know that that's going to mess with your emotions, but that's just not their main priority. They might cross your boundaries. They might come on super strong and then disappear, might text you in the middle of the night or try to manipulate you emotionally. And they act this way because they want something from you. But what they want is temporary. They want sex, they want compliments, they want a shoulder to cry on. But if they actually want you back, then they'll see that they can't really treat you the same way. They're in this for the long haul, so they stop focusing on getting short-term gains at all costs. And you're going to see this in how they treat you. They'll give you space when you ask for it. They'll text you back when you reach out. They'll respect your time instead of making huge demands on you. They'll be thinking, I need to treat this person right so that they actually want to be with me. So if you start getting the feeling that, your ex respects and cares about you beyond just a quick hookup or to give them a ride to work or whatever, then this is a powerful sign that they really do want you back. And sign number 2 is they try to stay connected. If your ex has been reaching out to you more and you're wondering if this is a sign of interest, stop wondering, because it's almost certainly a sign that they miss you and quite possibly want you back. Because really, it's not easy to reach out to your ex after breaking up. In most situations, there are plenty of reasons to actually stay away. You want to move on. You have hurt feelings over the breakup. You don't want to give them the wrong idea. You're worried it'll be awkward. The list goes on. So you must have a pretty good reason to overlook all this baggage. And typically that reason is that you want them back. Trust me, every day, thousands of people get a seemingly innocent text from an ex. And the majority of the time, this is their ex testing the waters to see if they still have a chance. Now, of course, texting and phone calls are not the only way to stay connected after a breakup. It could come in the form of social media, bumping into you at somewhere they know you're going to be at, or maybe even something more subtle. One thing that I often see is your ex will fail to give you back your belongings after a breakup, or they'll fail to come and pick up theirs. And honestly, it doesn't matter what the item is, a favorite hoodie, a coffee mug, a towel, a pair of underwear. To your ex, this item represents a point of connection, because if they still have your t-shirt, they know that they're going to see you at least one more time. And as long as they put it off, the longer they'll stay connected to you. It honestly doesn't seem like much, but as long as they keep, forgetting to give it to you or pushing back meetings or just otherwise dragging their feet, you can safely bet that they really can't bear the thought of leaving you forever. And sign number 3 is they start mirroring you again. Now, in psychology, the practice of consciously or unconsciously copying the behavior, words, or attitudes of another person is known as mirroring. And this is something that we do constantly with the people we care about and we want to be close to. So you might take on the speech patterns of a close friend. You might get into running because, your sibling has been getting into running, or you might start listening to a band that your partner likes. But after a breakup, we tend to go in the opposite direction, in an attempt to break the links between us and our ex. So, that song you can't stand to listen to because it reminds you of that person you dated in high school. Remember how you thought you really enjoyed, rock climbing when you were dating somebody, but looking back, it seems totally out of character. Some of this can be attributed to the breakdown of mirroring. All that is to say, if your ex starts to subtly mirror your behavior again, that is an indication that they want you back. They might be doing this intentionally to try to get you to notice them. So maybe you post a gym selfie and then 2 days later, they do too. Or they may not even be aware that they're doing it. Like they start adopting your way of speaking or your opinions. Either way, it does mean that they're paying close attention to you and they're making an attempt to bridge the gap so that they can get back into your life. And sign number 4, they start showing signs of jealousy. Now, an ex is never going to say, I see that you've been spending time with this other person and it's making me feel jealous. That's embarrassing to admit, and it's going to make them look weak and obsessive. All things that they're going to want to hide if they're hoping for another chance with you. But their jealousy is going to show all the same, just in more subtle, unexpected ways. Often, jealousy can take the form of anger. So say you start seeing somebody new and suddenly your ex texts you in a rage. They're furious that you can move on so quickly. Surely this is a sign that you never cared about them at all and that you're a liar. Now, sure, this might be how they feel on one level, but the intensity of their anger is typically just a mask. They're really just upset that you're with somebody who isn't them, and they have no way to express that to you without coming out and actually saying that they want you back. So they'll try to make it about you, how you betrayed them by starting to move on. What they're really hoping is that they can make you second guess your decision to date again, to disrupt your new relationship so they can have you for themselves. And another way they'll do this is, to give you some friendly advice about the new person that you've been spending time with. It might be something like, it's none of my business, or I don't even care, but they're a bad person. You could do so much better. You're moving too fast. They don't have your best interests at heart. Really, they'll say just about anything to put it into your head that you shouldn't see this person anymore. Of course, jealousy does have many, many other forms. It's often going to come in the form of just obsessively checking in on you, looking at your social media, asking what you're doing and who you've been hanging around with. And these really are not the actions of somebody who's over you and is trying to move on. They're the actions of somebody who wants you back badly. And sign number 5 is you score over 75 in my free quiz. Now, I've put together a simple 5-minute quiz that will tell you what your ex is feeling for you right now. And you can take it at breakupbrad.com/quiz. It's essentially the culmination of all my work with tens of thousands of coaching clients, as well as all my experience here on YouTube. And it is completely free. It's easy and it's confidential. Take it now, less than 5 minutes at breakupbrad.com/quiz. And moving on to sign number 6, they're suddenly nostalgic. Now, there are only 2 reasons that your ex will bring up the past. First, it's because they haven't been able to move past it. They can't stop thinking about it because they don't want to. That past is exactly where they want to be, with you by their side. And second, they want to remind you of all the good times that the two of you have had together in order to put the idea in your head that you should give them another chance. So if your ex randomly brings up, that weekend trip the two of you took, or that party where you first met, or the band you used to listen to together, you need to know that this isn't just a casual conversation to them. It's most likely a plea for your attention. So here's the bottom line. If your ex is showing any of these signs, even in ways that are subtle, they may be a lot more interested in you than you might think. But that doesn't mean that you should just pour your heart out and tell them that you want them back, because their feelings still may be very delicate and confusing. So if you put too much pressure on them right now, you could scare them off. Remember, they also have a lot of reasons to stay away from you and move on with their lives. All that baggage from the breakup. So don't force the issue. Start rebuilding attraction in a natural, low-pressure way. Act slowly and do the work to lower their emotional defenses and reignite that spark in a way that actually lasts. If you want to know exactly what I'm talking about, you should check out my full free video presentation over at breakupbrad.com right now. It'll give you the tools you need to bridge the gap between you and your ex and to get them to come back to you starting today. And that is it for this one. Thank you for watching. I'm Breakup Brad, aka Brad Browning, and I'll see you in the next one.